At first, this film feels exactly like what you'd expect. It's fast, it's funny, a little chaotic, and it doesn't really ask to be taken super seriously. The world feels structured, even familiar, for a fantasy setting, but then small things start to feel slightly off. A space that looks perfectly balanced, but somehow doesn't feel like it holds the people inside it. A character who should feel powerful, but doesn't quite seem in control. Another character who looks undeniably powerful, in a moment where that power starts to feel a little absurd. Individually, these moments don't seem to amount to much, but taken together, something starts to be revealed and to feel unstable. Here, what's in the frame suggests symmetry, but the people inside it don't quite align. Sometimes, a presence isn't fully there, but is still shaping what we see. And even the way people speak starts to feel just a little
How do you know as a
off.
Harper?
You may have forsworn your oath, but your oath hasn't forsworn you.
Just because that sentence is symmetrical doesn't make it not nonsense.
The logic feels structured, insightful, but it doesn't quite land as intended. It's not broken, but it doesn't sit right either. And once you start to notice that feeling, you begin to realize this world doesn't just feel off, it actually starts to turn. This is Beneath the Frame, where we take a closer look at how film creates deeper meaning. And then it stops being subtle. The world doesn't just feel off anymore. It actually starts to turn. Our main character, Edgin, returns to his home, and a moment that should hold everything together falls apart. Here, Simon reaches for control, and the world quite literally flips upside down. And from that point on, the world never seems to settle back into place. Sometimes it is truly unsettling. Sometimes it's even a little funny. But things don't just go wrong. They go wrong in the opposite direction. A plan comes together perfectly until it doesn't. Failure somehow becomes progress. And the more it happens, the harder it is to ignore.
Made it inside the vault.
Characters fall upward. Spaces open in the wrong direction. And even when something works, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. It's as if the film keeps flipping the direction of things without ever settling on something concrete. Even the way people speak starts to follow the same pattern. A line that sounds like it should make sense folds back on itself.
Aren't you sick of failing?
No! That's the whole point. We must never stop failing because the minute we do, we failed.
Huh?
It sounds right, even when it shouldn't. And somehow, it still kind of works. Power shifts the same way. The person who looks in control isn't, and the one who sometimes seems diminished might just be the most dangerous person in the room. Up doesn't always mean power. Down doesn't always mean weakness. At a certain point, it stops feeling like coincidence. It starts to feel like a pattern. Not just chaos, but something that keeps reversing itself over and over again. And once you start to see that pattern, the way things turn, the question shifts. It's not just why is everything turning? It's, how is any of this actually working at all? It starts small, almost easy to miss. A moment where something enters a space that doesn't quite belong there. And the instinct is to hold on to it, to contain it, to make sure it doesn't slip away. But the answer isn't to capture it. It's to open something and to find the courage to let it go. And once you start to notice that, the film begins to echo that idea in a very different way. Not through movement this time, but through what we see. Here, a character stands framed by a window that looks outward. What he wants is right there, almost within his grasp, but not actually close enough to touch. But being this close to something isn't the same as reaching it. So, instead, the film suggests one possible approach. Perhaps, if something is in your way, you break through it. Glass shatters, barriers disappear.
It's intoxicating when you realize that what separates you from what you've always wanted can be as thin as a pane of glass.
Suddenly, what was out of reach isn't anymore. It feels simple, almost too simple, because not everything behind a surface is something you can actually take. Sometimes what you're looking at isn't reality. It isn't just a place. It's a version of how things could be. The light that comes through this window feels hopeful. It's something she can look through, perhaps to a different world, where relationships are repaired, to a life that feels truly whole again.
Well, he's gone, my dear.
And sometimes the window doesn't open at all. It's something you're being shown. The image is still there, reasonable, convincing, but now it's sealed, opaque. It suggests freedom, the possibility of flight, but holds that movement in place. The window becomes a cage, something that frames, something that holds, something you can look at, but are never meant to move through. And then the film shifts again, because sometimes what you're looking at is real, not imagined, not softened, not reshaped into something that is easier to accept. Just what's there. The frame is still there. I mean, it still is basically like a window, right? But now there's nothing to break, nothing to fix, nothing to take. You can only see through it clearly. And at that point, something shifts again. It's no longer about reaching for something. It's about facing what's already in front of you. Okay, I don't know if you've picked up on this yet, but brace yourself because this film is ridiculously cool. Anyway, as the film goes on, these reversals start to take on yet another shape. Because it's not just that things flip. It's that the boundaries themselves start to change. Walls don't always hold. Floors don't always support. Spaces don't always contain what's supposed to be inside of them. What should separate one place from another starts to feel thinner, more flexible, almost permeable. A barrier becomes a pathway. A surface becomes something you can pass through. Movement doesn't stop at the edge of a space anymore. It continues through it. And at first, it feels clever. Okay, let's be honest. It is clever. At first, it feels improvisational, like the characters are finding unexpected ways forward. A plan fails, and suddenly a new path opens, not by forcing their way through, but by seeing the space differently. A floor isn't just something you stand on. It can be something you fall through. An obstacle isn't just something that blocks you. It can be something you simply move across. And the more it happens, the clearer it becomes. The world isn't as solid or as rigid as it first appeared. But then the film pushes this idea further, because this way of moving, of passing through what should stop you, doesn't just belong to the heroes. It can be taken, controlled, forced into something entirely new. A space designed to contain movement becomes something that can be risen above. A boundary meant to separate worlds becomes something you can pass through. And suddenly, it's not about finding a way through the system anymore. It's about breaking out of it, moving past the game, above the people watching it, beyond the structures that hold it all in place. Reaching for something higher, something outside the rules that everyone else is still bound by. And for a moment, that kind of movement doesn't feel freeing. It feels absolute, overwhelming, uncontested. Because instead of moving with the world, of adapting to its limits, the villain seems to escape them entirely. And once that happens, the idea changes. Perhaps movement isn't just a way forward anymore. Perhaps it is a way to rise above and to control everything. And that raises a different kind of question. If movement can break every boundary, what happens when someone tries to stop it completely? Towards the end of the film, it might feel like everything is finally starting to come together. There's a plan, a direction, a sense that things are more or less under control. But that control doesn't come from certainty. It comes from something else. Because every time Edgin has made a plan, it falls apart. And no one is truly surprised, because the plan was never meant to hold everything in place. It was meant to start something, to give the group a direction to move in, something they can build on, adjust, reshape together. Control here isn't about locking things down. It's something constructed in motion, through trust, through connection and collaboration. And then we see the opposite, a different kind of control, one that doesn't adapt, doesn't bend, doesn't move at all. The world stops completely. Movement freezes, time holds. Everything stays exactly where it is. And for a moment, it feels absolute. Perfect control. Nothing can change. Nothing can escape. Nothing can move forward. But something feels off, because everything we've seen so far in this film suggests the opposite. That movement is how this world works. That change is what allows anything to happen at all. And here, that movement is gone. The world isn't just controlled, it's held in place, preserved, fixed, unable to become anything else. And that's the difference, because this kind of control doesn't guide, much less allow for the possibility of movement. It nullifies it. But then something breaks, not through overwhelming force, not by overpowering it, but by refusing to stop, by continuing to move inside a space that says movement isn't possible. And suddenly, that perfect control isn't so perfect anymore, because a space like this isn't built to adapt, or to compromise, or to share control with anyone else. And once it starts to break, it collapses completely. Later, what replaces it, after the villain has been slain, is something much quieter. Just people, moving together, speaking plainly, trusting each other, caring for each other, acting without needing everything to go perfectly. Life isn't lived by stopping the world, taking hold of it, and subjecting it to your will. It comes from moving through it, not alone, but together. And that leads to one final choice. Because if control isn't about holding on to everything, then what do you hold on to? What do you keep? And what do you let go? Look, a world can be frozen, preserved, held exactly as it was. You can try to do that, but life doesn't work that way. And in the end, neither does this film, because the most powerful moment here isn't about restoring what's gone. It's about choosing what still matters, accepting what's in front of you, and moving forward with what remains. By the end of the film, the world doesn't feel the same. Not because it's changed, but because the way we move through it has. Earlier, there were always things in between. Glass, distance, barriers that separated people from what they wanted. Windows that let you see or dream, but not quite reach. Something always just out of grasp. And sometimes those barriers felt thin, fragile, something you could break through if you just pushed hard enough. But that idea never really held, because not everything can be taken. Not everything should be. And over time, something began to shift. Those same spaces don't just separate anymore. They begin to open, not as something to force your way through, but as something you can move through. The difference is subtle, but it's important, and it changes everything. What once felt like boundaries, barriers, obstacles, now becomes a threshold. And what once seemed to hold everything in place begins to let things go. Power, control, even the things people tried to hold on to the most. They don't stay contained. They move, sometimes slipping away through an opening that wasn't there before. Or maybe the hole was always there, and now it is just understood differently. In the end, for our heroes, the world doesn't feel like something to fight against anymore. Obstacles and challenges have become openings. And maybe what looked like chaos at first wasn't chaos at all, just an idea coalescing and slowly finding its shape. So, when you watch this film, do these moments feel like everything is falling apart? Or like something is quietly coming together? Or have you seen another film that opened your eyes by blurring the boundaries imposed by time and space? What do you think might be happening beneath the frame?